All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Gang Boss Barbecue threatens new Haiti government, says, I know where your kids are. More specifically, it says, I'll know where your kids are. I guess you could think of that as that when it comes time, I'll know where they are. But this was a serious threat, and of course, this whole thing is kind of a circus. Of course, they started off with Haiti's fearsome gang boss Jimmy Barbecue Charziar issued a chilling threat to the politicians beyond the plans of for a new government. Barbecue's murderous mob plunged the Caribbean country into chaos earlier this month, demanding that absentee Prime Minister Ariel Henry resign. Under pressure from the international community, unelected Henry agreed on Monday to cede power to a transitional presidential council that will govern Haiti until the elections can take place. Now, what's really nuts about this is, first of all, they started off, they always put the descriptor before the person, Haiti's fearsome gang boss. Now, I've seen several documentaries before all of this really got really crazy. In fact, at that point, MSM was not talking about it at all. Haiti hadn't been talked about for years, but they of course showed clips of him with his village, with the little ones playing soccer next to him, and him helping some lady, basically helping her get something unstuck, and he was kind of like this really nice guy in the neighborhood that ran the place. But of course, his nickname is Barbecue, which says his mom gave him that nickname. Some are saying is because he likes to, do other things with his enemies and other things like that. A lot of it is a lot of information that is just kind of speculation and things like this. But as far as how did he get the power, and in just a couple of years did he turn around to not only be able to take over all of this, or to get all of these gangs to work together and to be able to take power of Haiti over, it seems really like something like there's probably in 30 years we're going to find out a three-letter agency either handed over weapons to somebody or money. I don't know. Something about this just does not ring true. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Why this matters is there's some really freaky stories tonight, and we're going to talk about how they just found a boat filled with weapons, with night gear goggles, and a stash of other things, and it was headed for the US of A. What were they trying to do? What was the whole point of the night vision goggles? Was it just to get through some fences? I don't know, but it sounds pretty freaky. We're also going to talk about Macron. Macron, of course, is pointing out, he keeps saying, like, you guys are crazy. Why are we ruling out sending troops in? He essentially sounds like he's going to be the first one. He was the last one I thought would start this whole thing off. But he's basically saying, oh, yeah, we're not writing off troops in Ukraine. They're preparing us for NATO being completely and utterly involved in the Russian war. This is what we've been waiting for, and it's here. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
It's gonna be okay. I know it's gonna be I know it's gonna be okay.
All right, as always, the full bibliography is over on the website, marfooglenews.com. You'll be able to find not only all of the articles, tweets, videos, pictures, documents, but you'll also be able to find all of our wonderful friends. If you click on the Friends tab, you'll be able to find our mods. The mods are the folks in the chat keeping it awesome, and of course, they are always helpful to the rest of the community. If you're new here tonight, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell like everybody says, but also pop into chat and say hello. If this is your first show, of course, pop in and say hello. And of course, if you're a longtime Foogle family, I know you know what to do. Of course, welcome folks in and let them know what we're all about. As far as barbecue, so there's a lot of creepy stuff. We're going over to Haiti here, and I'm going to pop this open. But Dex, do you want to talk about? Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. Can't go without your intro. I think we did that the other day, and people were like, "What the heck? He didn't say I'm doing fine." Dex, how are you doing, and what's going on? Now, Dex, we lost all audio or just you? You were running low. Can you guys hear me, everybody? Okay, all right. We will fix that here in a second. That's too bad. You guys just missed the most amazing point about this. Now, there's literally the absolute ultimate point he just made, which you will never know, and he can never repeat again because it was so good. You just won't be able to hear it ever, ever, ever again. It was mind-blowing. I mean, like, I'm still in shock by what he said. But simple issue. We'll fix this in just a second. U.S. lawmakers blocking critical funding for Haiti multinational mission. And by the way, Dex basically said that the fallout from this, like a lot of people aren't tuned into Haiti. Of course, with all of the stuff that's going on, many people don't even know, can't point to Haiti on a map. Most people have not paid attention over the last few years. This kind of shady stuff happened. There's been a lot of independent journalists that have gone out and talked about Haiti. They have covered a lot of these things. But as far as, why is this happening right now with all of the other things that are going on, all of the other countries that have their issues with Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, North Korea, South Korea, Venezuela, Guyana. Now we have Haiti, of course, having their own civil conflict inside their country. Is this about, having them take over? Well, seems like the main thing that really ties into the U.S., other than us jumping over there, is the fact that they are now telling us in MSM that all sorts of people are coming in as refugees. Asylum, right? Now, U.S. lawmakers actually blocked critical funding for the Haiti multinational mission. U.S. lawmakers are refusing to release millions of dollars in funding what Washington views as critical to help tackle the spiraling violence in Haiti. So we're coming up with money to even help over here as well, which there are some folks here that are just going to be like, period, why are we helping out everyone around the world, but we can't even afford to restock our munitions to protect ourselves? Representatives Michael McCaul, Republican chairman of the House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee, and Senator Jim Risch, top Republican on Senate Foreign Relations, have put both quote, holds on $40 million requested by the U.S. State Department, warning that the administration that they need a lot more details before it gets funding. Obviously, some are wondering, like, where is this money going? Is this just yet another thing where it's going to go somewhere and it might not hit the receiver? Obviously, with what happened in UKR, a lot of people had to resign. I think it was 9 people that were directly under the Prez over there had to resign, and that was because there was accusations that they were buying supercars with the money, that they had mansions and had pictures of multiple women at their party that they paid for with, of course, money that I don't think they got winning the local lottery. But of course, with other countries as well, there's been a lot of declassified stuff over the years about how money would go towards something but actually get used for some clandestine mission or get used for something else, or it went back right into the pocket of somebody else. A lot happens, and we know more about other countries that have done this because obviously our country is totally okay with telling us about when other countries do the nasty stuff. But yeah, with us, it's a little different. Congressional aides said that the money being held could prevent deployment of the Kenyan police force to Haiti unless another country stepped up to fill in the gap. The $40 million would cover costs essential to the mission. The State Department is engaging with Congress on the approval of the funds. We think it's critical for deployment, the official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity. Gang violence has spiraled in Haiti, fueling a humanitarian crisis. See, that's where it all pops in, when it's a humanitarian crisis. This is, of course, where the U.S. needs to go in and help. There's a lot of people that agree with that. They say, hey, these people, the citizens of that country, they don't get to choose if somebody's, if you're born there and there's gangs running it or there's corrupt government. Those are just people. So it's always been the bigger countries that say, hey, we have to help these guys. We have to be we have to step in and help them. They're hurting. It is crazy that it's gotten so bad now that people, even if there is a legitimate cause, and I don't know if this is one of them, but now people are so burnt from all of the wars and all of the stuff that our money goes towards too, that a lot of people don't want money going towards any other country, which probably isn't a great thing 100% either. But countries have been slow to offer support, and doubts have grown after Kenya, which has pledged to lead it, announced it was pausing the deployment after Henry announced he would resign. Henry being the guy that was about to run it. So it's like nobody wants to do it for free, right? Nobody wants to do it without the money involved, without the cushy environment. At least that's how I'm taking it. And then Kenya only wanted to work with this one guy. Kenya's government pledged 1,000 officers to lead an international security force last July, but the initiative has been tied up in challenges. Now, what do you think? And asked to be paid up front. So yeah, they'll totally do it. They're there for the people, but they want their money up front. Like we're not taking an IOU on this one. Also, what do you think that they got whiff of beforehand that the U.S. might be putting money up, and maybe the Kenyan government's like, yeah, we'll send 1,000 police. Gosh, you know how much Americans pay per hour for things like this, foreign money? They just send over crates of cash. I bet they volunteered. Heck, look at Afghanistan. Look at the one guy that left Afghanistan. All of the money. Look at how they did with soldiers. They would send soldiers with big duffel bags of cash into villages to pay for information, and they would just like hand them stacks of $10,000. It was like, off the record money that they would just hand out like candy. If they were able to get information or to bribe the tribes. So this is getting absolutely nuts. And then Haiti migrants carrying weapons, night vision tech, and drugs arrested off of Florida coast. Haiti migrants carrying weapons, night vision tech were arrested off of the Florida coast. Now they're guessing that these people were headed into the United States. One thing, my question was why the night vision goggles, right? Was this just to get through some fences or some land on land to get through borders, right? Is this for them to guide them through dark conditions? Maybe Florida's a little bit different. Maybe in Texas they do things a little differently, and maybe in Florida they have different kinds of borders and different kind of checkpoints they've got to get through. But some are questioning if these were going to be used for a horrible event. Now, they were armed, heavily armed, apparently. It says a boat carrying 25 aliens from Haiti has been intercepted in waters near Florida, according to the state's governor, Ron DeSantis. DeSantis told a press conference this afternoon they had firearms, they had drugs, and they had night vision gear. Now, when you combine those three, it doesn't really sound like these were just asylum-seeking refugees that just wanted to get away from all the hell. In fact, most likely because they had the hell with them, right? They were bringing nasty stuff in. It sounds like they may have been the bad guys, or at least a few bad guys were with them. It says that vessel was interdicted. I think that's how you say it. Those illegal aliens were turned over to the Coast Guard for deportation. Officers from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, FWC, were conducting a patrol near Sebastian Inlet at 7:30 p.m. on February 29th. They stopped a 42-foot vessel which was involved in what they described as a human operation, or, smuggling humans. Investigators found on board 25 individuals, including 5 unaccompanied wee ones, alongside with weapons, night vision, gear, and drugs. The vessel operator and the passenger, both identified as U.S. citizens, were turned over to Brevard County Sheriff's Office. And it's always Brevard County. Like, there's so many stories we've covered in Florida that are always Brevard County. But it says that one and I forget what the other one that always pops up. The suspected migrants referred to as illegal aliens by DeSantis were turned... The suspected migrants referred to as illegal aliens by DeSantis were turned over to the state's Coast Guard for deportation, the Florida governor told reporters. So this is all among the chatter and all the talk about events, the nationwide events by the FBI. Sheriff Rick Jones telling us that they are being told that it's a matter of if, not when we have some horrible event going down. At the same time, of course, even folks like Elon are actually posting. This is weird. Posted a lot lately. It's just a matter of time, right? All the extremely connected people in the world are building bunkers and making these statements, basically saying, oh, this is going to get bad. We're going to be so polarized. There's going to be a civil conflict. There's going to be this. And it's all a matter of time, or it's an if, not when. Or I'm sorry, it's a when, not if. So... yeah, what do you guys think about all of this stuff? Of course, if this wasn't in the news, nobody would be paying attention to Haiti. We have covered this. We've actually made sure to cover some of this for about 3 years now, since there was some really weird things happening there. There was chatter of American tanks in Haiti about 3 years ago. There was chatter of the same thing about last year. There's been these weird kind of stories, which were all kind of speculation, right? But we've talked about it because something was going on. In fact, you know that we even pointed you to other creators and some of our peers for their investigations that they did, like Clayton Morris and things like that. He had some guests on that had really good information on it. But at the same time, nobody really talked about this until then. There's some older stuff involving certain first wives and things like that, to do with Haiti and things like that from a long time ago, but really people weren't paying attention. So what is really going on here? What is the true motivation? And this whole Florida thing that just happened, this thing with the weapons and the drugs and all that, what's really going on here? Is this purposely being put out to get something in the back of our heads? I don't know. But it is definitely unique. And then before we move on, I do want to remind you, if your power does go out for any reason, whether it be a storm or something else, we highly recommend going and getting yourself an Energy solar generator. These are a long wait because they are in super high demand. They are made, they're made with some of the highest quality components. Also, this is the same generator that the Army has actually chosen for the STTR Phase 2 contract. If you haven't seen the Flex Tactical, it's an expandable and modular solar generator. So not only can you hook it up to panels, but you can also change it around, mod it to be quick charged. You can mod it to where it takes in more input. So one mod it, for instance, instead of 4 panels max, you can actually pop in a brick just like Legos and actually hook it up to 12 panels. For this actually has heated batteries, so it can deal with extreme cold temperatures, reinforced steel frame. Again, it's got the 1,500-pound latch system, so once these things are latched together, they are that way until you undo them. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. One reason that we're really recommending solar is that, again, if the power in the grid goes down or any kind of EMP or even a Carrington level event from the sun, the pumps will not work. If the power goes out, so do the pumps. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. All right, and then Dex, let's see if we can troubleshoot this real quick. If you guys want to do, let's do a quick roll call, and we'll put this up on screen real quick. And then Dex, if you want to try talking here, let me see if there's anything that I can do on my end. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out what this would be. Let's see here. Let's see. Try it now, Dex.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Wait, hold on. Keep talking.
I'm talking. I'm here. And I'm doing just fine.
Okay, you guys hear him now, right?
There we go.
It looks like we do. Confusion
Yep.
USA. That's where I'm at right now. What? Are you here? Yes, he is live. Sweet. Dex, will you make a note? It was from mono to stereo. A red button. Red button,
Gotcha.
mono stereo. And then if it happens
It's
again,
always the red button.
it's always
Even in the movies.
it's not the easy button. That's for sure. But that's weird though, because wait a second. Was it that? Try talking one more time.
I'm talking.
He just cut out right when I did that, didn't he? Yep. Okay, but now it's way too loud. So something has to be adjusted here. Dex, do you want to cover the next story? And I'll make sure you don't peek. Let's go into Arctic Navy SEALs.
Yeah, certainly. So look, we've been covering this the stuff that's going on in the Arctic, obviously with the advancement of the NATO exercises that are going on, and in the inclusion of, say, Finland and Sweden, which obviously have a lot of location closer to the Arctic, and even Canada, which has obviously some of the closest, as well as Greenland. We have been seeing a lot of activity from our soldiers doing training up there. We were just covering some the other day. We've also covered the fact that we've got some deficiencies in that area. If you remember in last night's show, we talked about the fact that we don't have enough icebreakers, comparatively speaking, to, say, Russia, who is doing just a jam-up job, so to speak, of building up an Arctic presence with bases and equipment and icebreakers and everything. So, but nonetheless, this was a little bit of an insight into what was happening in a recent drill they were doing. They had the SEALs zooming across the Arctic on snowmobiles. They had a submarine that had popped up and broke through the ice. All of this is part of an exercise. And they went, as part of their, exercise, running through the snow, running through the ice on snowmobiles, hooking up to or getting up to the submarine, presumably getting into it, or whatever the experience would have been if they were doing something for real. So it is good to see that we are practicing and doing more in the Arctic. I still believe, at least from the information we've been told, I'm not up there, I can't see it, but I still believe we're probably pretty far behind compared to the Russians, who have spent, heck, even in their mainland, they pretty much feel like they're in the Arctic during the winter anyway. So they probably spend a great deal of time and have a lot more preparation in the Arctic than we do. But you got to keep in mind, when you think about the Arctic region, it's not just like who gets to Santa Claus first. It's not even about that. It's about controlling the area of, in the case of Russia, they look at the polar ice receding back off of their land and creating an opening across the northern section from Russia across over to Siberia, where they can do shipping. So they look at that as an opportunity. It's also a very close proximity when you really think about it in distance from Russia to northern Canada when you go across the poles. So when you think about combat, not just ICBM launches, which if you look at any plan on ICBM launches, they come across the poles pretty much because it's the shortest path. It's not like they're going to go from America across Europe over into Russia. They're going to go across the top of the poles, really short distance. So that short distance also represents an opportunity for other combat maneuvers against one another. And that's why they have been training heavily in it. And this particular incident was somewhere in between Canada and Greenland. So that'll give you an idea where they were. But yes, that's the training that's going on.
And same thing with Alaska as well. It is why Alaska is so beefed up as far as placement goes. You have everything that's going on with the Arctic, and by the way, you're talking about up in these areas where Greenland is and all of this stuff with the Arctic. There's all the rumors that the Arctic is where all the people would go during a world-ending disaster, right? That you kind of put that into play too. That all these guys are training in the Arctic, right? What goes down? What if they're not training up there? What if the SEALs aren't training there, but they're actually on a secret mission? Which the SEALs are the guys that would go on something top secret. What if they're up there helping out with something? What if they're building a base up there? And those are the guys they can trust to go up there and not talk about it. Well, oddly enough, you see it made me think of a side thing like those other SEALs that perished falling off that boat. It's like these guys are the toughest hombres. If there was some sort of secretive base up there, those guys would most likely be one of the few that would be able to see it. But if you look at the map up here, you've got the top of Canada, and then you've got Russia. I think it's spun around actually on me. If I refresh this, we can go back to that one point here. Yeah, so right here, you've got it, and it's not like it's just easy to draw a line there, but there's Quebec, there's the top with of the Northwest Territories and Nunavut. There's Canada, here's the Arctic. Then you go over here, and you've got Russia. You've, of course, got Europe, but right here, boom. So if they were to go to war with the U.S., if we were ever in a Red Dawn scenario, you would probably think that if they had a path through there, that would be pretty helpful. Not to mention, there's been a lot of talk about this, which we kind of see these echoes of what might be being talked about. They have more icebreakers than anybody. I believe their fleet is the biggest. U.S. has not caught up with them in that area. Those icebreakers make a whole new path. That is a path that they can use to ship stuff through that, again, we may not be able to do the same. They might be able to cut other countries out of the middleman position if they open up certain paths. Real quick, thank you, Carol. Thank you, Merlin, says Dex Audio Fun. Well, technically, Dex has a better mic than me and a couple other better things, but I get what you're saying. Thank you so much, Merlin. Thank you for the support. Carol White, thank you. Thank you. Old combat vet, JB was overheard saying, "Oh boy, more criminals are coming," regarding the Haiti thing. That sounds like a Babylon Bee article, but what's even sadder is that most Babylon Bee articles end up coming true within about a week. But I tried to look that up because the funny thing is I immediately went to look that up because I would just believe that. So I don't know if it was just a joke. I'm assuming it was. But I absolutely would believe that. Like, if I saw that, I wouldn't be like, oh, gosh, oh, the horror. I would be like, yeah, that's JB for you. So that's funny. I mean, otherwise, if it was so unbelievable, I wouldn't bother looking it up, right? But I could see him on a hot mic saying, oh, boy, more criminals are coming. Dog-faced pony soldier. Oh. And then AK Forever in My Heart. Thank you, S-Nort. Thank you, Terrible Truth. Thank you for your support last week. I appreciate you. Craig Alicious, grace for you too. Stephanie Cook, Trilicit, Alicia Renteria, Zen1AZ, and Amarillo Conrunners. Thank you so much for your support this week. And I'm assuming nobody said anything negative about that, so we got the sound all fixed up. Macron doubles down on possible NATO deployment in Ukraine ahead of talks to the bridge rift with Germany. Now, just do a quick raise of hands here. Did any of you hear all that? Did any of you watch some of his speeches? Because it really sounds like he is. It really sounds like he's straight up almost defensive about it. Like, oh no, we're not taking ourselves out of the fight. Dex, you know what I think is really weird on this is that Macron sounds like he's already he's saying we don't need to draw lines for ourselves. Like if we have to go to war, we should go to war. It sounds like he's super pro-war. Is that not? Did you watch some of the clips of him talking?
He's certainly in an interesting position, and if you look at some of the backstory of him and his rise to power, it makes you wonder if he's not one of the key players, or at least one of the key orchestrators of the whatever plan and agenda that they're trying to pull forward with the West and with NATO. And he talks that talk, so to speak, and I think he's definitely, like you say, like pro-war almost. It just sounds like he's game to go in and get it on.
I was gonna try to find the. It reminds me of a previous story. Obviously, this is in the last year. He said he was going to step back from the USA. Let's see here. He said he was going to take a step back from the United States. And this was just a couple days after he met with Xi Jinping. It's like this is the last person I thought would be like, no, we can't, X this out of ourselves, like going into Ukraine. Like we might have to fight Russia. Like we're tough. We're going to protect ourselves. If Russia's coming here, like we need to let them know we're tough, that we will do this, that we'll fight them. We have no problem fighting them. I never expected that out of Macron. I guess and maybe it's because I don't live there and I'm not familiar with him. Like, we see clips of our own president all the time. We only see the big stories when we talk about other countries' presidents. I'm sure in Canada it's a little different. You guys hear about ours all the time. But it's rare that we hear about Trudeau. It's rare that we hear about Macron unless it's a big international story and it has something to do with NATO or the U.S., we don't really hear about it. So I don't know his personal calls. We, of course, heard about the whole thing where he helped them extend the age, but that's because there were protests and fire all over Paris. France is going through this really weird thing, too. They're going through this advancement of government there as well, and the people there are pissed off. Look at the French farmers and all the stuff that's going on there. I mean, it's getting really, really nuts over there. And at the same time, he's like, no, we need to go show them that we're not joking. If you watch the video of him in that interview, tell me you don't feel like he's setting us up for everybody to be going to war. It's pretty clear. And then when Germany said all this stuff, it's like he's confirming that with everything he says. Germany basically leaked out by saying, well, we don't want to put our guys in, running a missile, a missile launcher over in Ukraine like the French do. He basically put them on blast and said that they were over there launching the missiles and helping out. Boots on the ground. There are NATO boots on the ground. And you know what's even scarier is we know that there are NATO boots on the ground, but how they've kind of angled it and how they released it, people aren't up in arms about it. There's no boots on the ground on every news channel saying boots on the ground. Nobody really cared. It's a big deal even if one soldier from NATO is fighting inside of Ukraine, for Ukraine, firing the trigger on something that destroys a building in Russia. That's a giant deal. And yet people are just kind of like, oh, well, yeah, that's what we thought. So people are so ready for this war that when it happens, nobody is going to be surprised, but yet they're going to, up until now, they still think it's not going to happen. Like, they're priming for this. It's really, really crazy. It's ridiculous how pro-war some of these guys are. And then let's see here. Let's go to the next one. Dex, Europe to use frozen Russian profits to arm Ukraine. This is probably not going to end well.
No, it won't. And even Russia has said, and specifically I think even Putin has said this in the past, that, hey, if you go after this stuff, that's a totally different ball game, and we're going to have to respond in some form. I don't know if he means kinetically as much as maybe finding other ways to counter given the financial situation. Now, it may be difficult given the fact that they're under so many sanctions. But what they're saying is, hey, we have seized all these things via sanctions. We have, money, profits, stuff stacked up that the sanctions don't really say, hey, we get to steal money from Russia and use it for ourselves. It just says we're sanctioning you. So we're going to put it over here and hold it to the side. It's in timeout until you become good. And then when you become good, you can have it back again. So until then, it's going to sit here. Well, now they're saying is, you know what? All that money that's sitting on the side that we've been holding from sanctions, we're going to actually just give it to UKR so they can fund themselves to continue fighting you. So that's a big, that's pretty big shift in policy of how sanctions have typically worked in the past, and I could see this backfiring big time.
And a comment said Macron. Did you know Macron married his school teacher? That's not a Babylon Bee. That's apparently real. I did not know that. I feel like I have heard that, and we talked about it with a caller a couple years ago. French President Emmanuel Macron recently denounced theories. Wait. Oh yeah. But he was denouncing that it was not a woman. But it does say was once his school teacher. Dex, did you know that?
Oh yeah, there was an interesting position on this from Candace, and I think I put a link to it on my Twitter. But she went down the rabbit hole, so to speak, of the details, including what he's denying here. So yeah, and there was a lot of evidence that certainly made you question what has happened. But apparently the truth is he was in school anywhere between 14, 15, or 16 years of age. And that's when he met his now current wife, who was a lot older than that at the time.
I bet, most people say, oh, well, in France, they do it differently. They drink wine at like 13. And, oh, they have that stuff on TV. It's like, here that's considered, Pepe Le Pew. Pedo Le Pew. Okay. I did not know that. I knew that. I felt like I heard that, but I thought it was like a joke. And then Russia, Putin says Ukraine will be punished for their selection day attacks on civilians. So this is kind of an admission too. If you remember, there was a speculation if it was even true that they didn't know if the different things that were going on inside of Russia were actually happening. Some thought that they were denying it, but they actually kind of admitted there. Says President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that UKR would be punished for trying to disrupt the Russian selection process by shelling civilian targets in Russian territory and using 2,500 armed soldiers to try to pierce Russia's borders. Speaking to members of Russia's Security Council, which includes military and spy chiefs as well as the most powerful civilian leaders in the state, Putin said such crimes would not be left unpunished. In order to disrupt the voting process and intimidate people, at least in the border areas, the Kiev regime is trying to carry out a number of criminal actions, striking at civilian settlements in Russia. These enemy strikes shall not remain unpunished, a visibly angry Putin said. Putin said 95% of the shells and missiles were shot down by Russian air defenses, but said some got through and that there were casualties among civilians. Putin said that there had been 4 attacks on the Belgorod region and 1 attack in the Kirks region by armed UKR proxies, numbering about 2,500. He said that they had 35 tanks and 40 armored vehicles. I'm guessing those were NATO tanks and NATO armored vehicles, and I'm assuming all of them got destroyed. So that if this wasn't successful, then that kind of sucks for the taxpayers' pocket. But Putin said that 60% of the UKR-backed soldiers had been perished and half of their armored vehicles lost. So yeah, 40 and 35. So we only lost like 40 maybe 20 tanks and 20 armored vehicles. Says, I'm sure that our people, the people of Russia, will respond to this with even greater solidarity. Well, one point to make is that if this did piss them off, if this is how they're portraying it, even if this isn't how it exactly went down, if they're portraying it to their country and this is what the media says to Russians, if this happened to any of our countries, we would be really up in arms. Regular people would want to join the cause. And here's another thing, and I have no idea if this is true, but they are saying that people are lining up at the doors of the recruitment offices to go to war. As far as in Russia, they're having no problems recruiting soldiers. Whereas if you take the United States, we absolutely know. We've covered every branch except for one has a huge shortfall. And it's like over there, they're lining up at the door. They have enough help, and they don't need, they've got conscripted folks, and they've got, of course, they have all sorts of other things going on, and they don't need to because they have people lining up at the door. That very well could be Ganda. Again, you guys can be the judge for yourself on that. Go do your own research on it. But that's what was being said by quite a few Fugel family members, including one that it was their parents had their own very, very rare dual citizenship. So I thought that was pretty odd. Which, again, I don't think they have a normal system there. I don't know how that works. You have to be somebody really important. And Ukraine considers drafting convicts to replenish war-battled troops. So on one side of the page, you have this, and then Dex, you have on the other side, they're actually they're trying to get some criminals to replace. They're running out of options.
I don't. Maybe they should have taken the plan out of the page out of Putin's playbook earlier. He did it early on. He went through that round early on. Now they're looking at this later in the game. Now that they're out of young soldiers and trying to find other ways to fulfill these boots that they need on the ground. So, yeah, it's a shift. It's something new. They're trying to put legislation together to see if they can pull people out of the prisons and put the convicts in the front lines. We've talked about this shift of even the average age of a Ukrainian soldier had gone up so high because they've, I guess, technically lost so many people. They don't talk about that.
It was 43.
They certainly talked about the average age being pretty high. So, that doesn't make a lot of sense when you typically your infantry, your largest numbers of enlisted soldiers are typically on the young side. They're right out of school. So, but they're obviously continuing to hurt.
Yeah, so the average age back when we covered it was 43 years old. It went from 35, and before that it was like 26 or something. So if you have out of 100 soldiers, a majority of them are going to be in their 40s. That's not a good sign, right? And that's by their own reporting. It went up. They're losing all their young guys. Their young guys are gone. Now they're using, the average. That means that there's much older there too. That means you've got 50s and nearly in their 60s. I don't think they have an age cutoff. I remember we covering all of that, and they had some older guys there, 67, 68. Not calling you guys old 67, but that's old for fighting. That's old for in a war. There were a couple guys, and they basically did. They also didn't say no. I will say this though: there were guys who volunteered, and they said, "We don't care what age you were. If you wanna perish for your country, then go ahead." That was about 6 months ago, where they were making exceptions for people that were older, that were experienced, that wanted to hop in. That's the one thing too. Like, what if a country is put in the position where even if you are 80 years old, you have to fight? That's the thing. I'm sure it's gotten to that point many times in history where everybody that's able to walk has to fight. Heck, even women and wee ones. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Of course, if you haven't already seen what these can do, they can actually protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, ham radios, and even your home against an EMP. attack, an electromagnetic pulse, or even a CME from the sun or a Carrington level event. This will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your car. So this is easy to put in. It's about 10 minutes to put in, red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground. There's essentially 3 wires you have to do something with, and then you're done. And then you're set. Just bolt it to the side of your engine block or to an open area, and you're set. It's very, very easy. Even the home version, which again depends on where you live. Some places you're allowed to do it on your own. But a Fugel family member said that they were able to do it themselves. They ended up calling in to customer service. One of the owners or the founders ended up giving them personal directions on how to do it, and they were able to do that. It's a great company. It's also they've done contracts for agencies like DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team. So again, if those guys are protecting themselves, it's probably a good idea we do too. They also have the Energy Flex 1500. If you already have that, they actually have the EMP shield directly made for that. That's the only generator that you can get an EMP shield for. So they have them in stock over there as well. You can get them from Energy, but Energy ran out for a while, so you could still get them from EMP. So EMP shield. Marfugglenews.com/EMP. And then Israel plans to attack Rafah, but keeps truce hopes alive. So they're saying that they're going to do this. This is a huge, huge event. The whole world is kind of watching this. Many people think that they're just kind of bluffing. I don't know. I don't know these countries well enough to know if this is not going to happen, but from everything I've heard and from every military member that is familiar, that some of them fought in Israel, they said that they believe absolutely they're going to go into Rafah. The only reason they wouldn't, obviously, is the people that are really up in arms about this. There's multiple countries saying if they do this, that it's like the ultimate red line. So all of the strip was like 26 miles long or whatever it was, had 2.2 million people. If you zoom out here, you'll see this is the Gaza Strip. The 2.2 million, they went in here, and then they moved half of the strip to the other side of the strip. So then you had 2.2 million people where 1.1 million people usually lived. And then from there, they actually have now moved them down even further. So now just in this last place, this last kind of area right here, you have over 2 million people in an area that's, half of this is about 12 something miles. So now take half of that, that's about 6 miles. So in just a few miles of place here, you've got, you have 2 million people. So whatever happens, it's getting kind of crazy. But Dex, there's hope, apparently. Do you want to say what that hope is?
Well, I guess they're hoping that truce will come along where the other side will agree to release and put an end to this, release hostages and put an end to this. But they've been talking about going in. They've approved the plan. Like you said, everybody's been compacted. They've even announced in the prior days to tell people, hey, why don't you guys head back to the center? Because we're coming into the south. They've basically swept through. They're cleaning house, so to speak, looking for the enemies within the people. And now they're at the last section, and they need to go in and sweep that last section. And they certainly are fine with people getting out, because they're going to be going into territories that they're controlling, and they can screen. So they've said before, hey, move people. If people want to move back to the center because we're coming into the south. But this is the last big push. And obviously it's not a very large location. So they've, over this period of time have covered all of that. The hope is that they will decide to stop, that the other side will give in, give up the hostages and put an end to it. But if they don't, they're going to go through and finish what they started, so to speak. And how that is what they've been saying all along.
And how Netanyahu put it is, he said in World War II, if you had, I forget what town it was, it's a famous
Berlin.
place, Berlin. You have a quarter of the German army in Berlin at the end of World War II. And if that was the last place you needed to go to get rid of them, would you not? Would you leave the rest of the Nazis there and not go in and take them out? I'm paraphrasing. He's said it a lot more eloquently. But he basically compared it to World War II, saying that the rest of the bad guys are right there. He's like, of course we're going to go in. We're not going to let them just hang out. It's a very, very dicey situation there. We've covered over the last few weeks all of the threats from other countries. So if this happens, whether you're on Israel's side or not, I'm sure most people understand that this could get really dicey for the world. And then out of Washington, they say this is a new crazy theory. But this is MSM covering this, by the way. This is Wired. Okay, so this is one of the big publications actually covering this. And it's essentially saying that Boeing might have been doing stuff on purpose, right? That's the thought. That's the speculation. Got to be careful here because they try to, even if you cover something that's, like this, then they try to look at you weird. But over the past week, airplanes have have been involved in numerous incidents, including mid-air emergencies. By the way, I swear they have, wait, it says by Boeing. I know it says Wired. Wait, Dex, is the author's pseudonym or something Boeing, or did Boeing write this? It actually says by Boeing, and I know that's got to be something in our thing that
It's probably in the translation.
Yeah, it's how we convert it over.
By David Gilbert.
Okay. I'm like, that would even be funnier if like somebody from Boeing wrote this, because it's talking about how this crazy theory is saying that it might be trying to like they're purposely trying to self-sabotage to take down the whole country. I'm not saying anything about the actual theory because I don't know enough about it to actually judge on what the theory is, but they're calling it a crazy theory. They've had so many different things going on, including mid-air emergencies, leaking hydraulic fluid, a wheel falling off a plane as it took off, pilots losing control of the plane mid-journey, and a plane plummeting suddenly and injuring 50 people. As a result, they have attributed this theory to people on the right, influencers and far right people, extreme people, are once again spreading the theory that Boeing's problems are all due to the airplane's manufacturer's supposed embrace of diversity. So they're saying that this is like something where they put people in because of who they are, what they are, instead of their qualifications, and that they may be putting in people that, say, have 12 hours of experience instead of 12 years simply because of the shade of their body, right? But this time around, they are going even further. Some are even claiming that the accidents are happening intentionally and that Boeing is failing because it's all part of a global thing to bring down Western civilization and promote communisms in countries like China. Now, there's some nuggets that actually are in here. I highly recommend going and reading this. But I will say this. There is usually some bits of truth to the bigger theories that a lot of people talk about. And if it really never goes away, like I said yesterday or the day before, if there's theories that just will not go away, then there's usually some sort of ounce of anything that's really spread and really believed. Usually it's because there's some sort of truth there, especially with rumors and speculation and people trash talking. If you take the tiniest nugget of truth, you can then turn that into something else. But as far as this goes, there have been a lot of very, very strange events that have gone on. And this is one of the biggest countries companies. When you talk about like Seattle, the reason people say we're so important is because of companies like Boeing. You say companies like Microsoft. These are the companies that make a country. That especially the money wise. Dex, go ahead.
Well, Boeing is so big in the sense of commercial air flight. I mean, I know Airbus and others there's quite a few that are out there, but just about everywhere you turn, 737s, 747s, 777s, they're all of them. The Boeing is all over the place. And if all of a sudden their quality and reputation starts to degrade quickly, what you're going to see is these major airlines, because they're not going to go down. They're going to be like, hey, I'm not picking up Boeing orders. Our next 10 planes we're bringing on the fleet when we retire these 10 are going to be Airbus or something else. And what a lot of people are speculating in this theory is that there is these Chinese planes, the C919, which is almost, as they call it, identical to one of the Boeing planes. And it's coming out and it's going to be, sold. And if this is a ploy. And here's the other way you could look at it, and it's not even written in here, and this is not a theory. It is a theory in the sense that I'm just making it up. I'm not saying this is happening, but companies do compete in unethical ways. That is a historical fact. Companies have done some shady stuff to one another. And it could even be so far as some form of sabotage from one company to another to try to gain market share or get themselves positioned better when these big orders for new planes start to come in. So, I'm not saying that's what China's doing, but I wouldn't put it past, because we've seen companies do this to other companies before, find ways to make their enemy, if you want to call it that, weak so they can come in and be strong. And that, there's all sorts of things around here. It's just the fact that there's so many happening at one time makes it really hard to think it's just coincidental. So we don't know what it is. Sure, there's a whole bunch of conspiracies that are in this article, but something's going on here with the fact that all of these things are happening to Boeing back to back to back. And it really started going back to the MAX. Remember the MAX groundings? It started with that. And it's just snowballed since then. But it's snowballed a lot in the last, 30 to 60 days. It's just getting tons of news coverage and tons of things happening.
And a reminder, there was a gentleman who said that he had serious concerns about Boeing, did a formal deposition, was going to the equivalent of a to testify. He was found, he perished in a... apparently he's self-offed. So that was there, that was just a couple days ago. So there's a lot of questions being raised right now. Obviously it's in especially after that guy disappeared. It's like we see it in the movies where there's the giant corporations that just, make the problem disappear. Problem being whoever that problem is, or whoever's causing the problem, make it disappear. And we've seen that in movies, and do people really think that that's just fiction? Like, that happens in real life. You're talking about corporations that munch up billions of dollars a day. To take somebody out, it's probably in the thousands, right? Even if it was in the millions, that's like chump change. They make that in 4 minutes. They make that in half a second to take care of a problem. They have whole legal teams. Everybody thinks that they do everything with their law firms and legal things. Yeah, probably 99%. But then there's those things that just don't go away. There's those people that are the legal law firms that, end up doing it. Those people probably get handled a little bit differently. Or the people that won't take a bribe, which is super, super rare, I'm sure. I'm sure they have different strategies to take care of those kind of things. Not saying Boeing in specific. In fact, what? Oh, Boeing is awesome. Boeing's great. Yes. Oh, no. Put my hands down. Okay, yeah. Boeing is a very stand-up company. And it had nothing to do with the You spelled it E-A. It's A, and then appearance of that gentleman. Well, use construction paper next time. It would be easier to read, okay? If you're going to make cue cards. Dex, go ahead.
Could you imagine 10 years from now if 50% of the fleet of planes in America were Chinese?
No.
I mean, we have a hard time dealing with the cranes being run by China, but imagine what would be happening if these were over our heads and they would be thinking that there's some sort of, infiltration or, I don't know, spying or something with all the flights and all the planes going back and forth in America.
Well, look at what's happening. What we've been talking about with the electric cars.
Yeah, that's coming too.
The electric cars, for $70,000, you can get this awesome car that does all this, and it has this checkbox, this checkbox, this checkbox. You could pay $70,000, and I'm however much you have to work to do $70,000. Pay it off over years, or you could get this one for $12,000. What are people going to pick realistically in this kind of economy? People are going to go, wait, so I can get all the same features? I had a friend that's always done cars and stuff, but he did really well, and he sold a car that at first when it came out, I was like, what is this? I've always been a Honda guy. I've always loved Hondas. So when I saw Hyundai, I was like, Hyundai sounds like a ripoff of Honda. And there was a running joke that Hyundai was like Honda, but when they were making it, somebody kicked them in the caboose. Hyundai! But either way, I thought, man, these are like super ripoffs cars, right? But the main thing he's told me is, he goes, people do not want, they don't care if they have like the longevity, they last forever. Basically, they've had the data now to where Hyundai is actually lasting just as long as Honda, or very close, but it's so much cheaper. And I don't know if it's still like that, because then they come in cheap and they're $5,000-$10,000 cheaper for almost the same freaking car. People are choosing that. And he said back a few years ago, it wasn't like that. It would be considered the cheaper car. But now, if you can get virtually the same thing, but for cheaper, people do not care who made it. They don't care about this or that. They just want to save money. And he said that there are so many people that they don't care. Absolutely. Doesn't matter who made it, where the money goes, that they just want to get that thing for cheaper. And that is, that shows us where we are in an economy where people will throw their morals and their principles out the window because it's cheaper. I feel this way too. Somebody, ended up going with something that's a competitor to the energy solar generator. They went with one of the competitors, but they bought one and it got there real quick. They're already having problems. And I called this over the last 3 weeks. They bought one that has one of the competitors, but the company that makes that generator is directly tied back to the 3-letter country, or the 3-letter government over there. So it's like, you get what you pay for. These planes, looks like they're direct ripoffs. I mean, that's what it looks like. And with their history of snatching the information, and I'm not saying that because I'm sure they have probably, it looks like, my opinion is that it looks like a ripoff. But I'm sure these mass corporations, they're going to want to save money. They're going to want to save $20,000, $30,000. And are they going to pass the discount on us in flights? No. They're going to raise the rates. It's really, really nasty. Thank you, by the way, Bill. Thank you for subscribing. David, thank you for subscribing. In fact, David John Rivington McConnell, thank you. Kristen Ober, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Much love to my son. First time tonight. Navy Reserve. Hey, Kristen Ober. I'm super, super happy. Thank you for bringing your son. Oh, Kristen Ober, is it your first time? Or is it your son's first time? And then Old Combat Vet, thank you. Well, no, yeah, you've been a member for 2 months. So, yeah, I've seen your name plenty of times. So, your son from the Navy Reserve, that is very awesome. And again, make sure you guys know if you have any kind of good info, give us a call at 224-400-MARF. And then young Macron was a male escort. Later, he had moved into management for the banking empire. Word on the street is his missus is a Mr. K. Parker Frazier. Love Adam, Dex, Mods, and family. Thank you. And then Jerry Shirts, question, should we take over countries that have mass migration coming here that way we are investing in our own country when we give them aid? Jerry Shirts, I get what you're saying, and I don't know if you meant to do that twice, but basically saying, yeah, if there's mass migration coming, no problem helping that country because we're just helping our future residents, right? So we're actually investing in our own country. Hey, that's a positive way to look at it. Dex, don't you think that's a super optimistic way to look at it? Like,
well, yeah, if you can, I mean, the reason they're coming here is things are bad. So if you can make things there better, then there's no reason to leave. If all of a sudden you can find, most people love their country they were born in until it does them wrong. And then they want to get out. I mean, how bad is your country that you got to get out? Well, some places it's pretty bad. But ultimately they have affinity and, some form of patriotism to their country. So if their country was great, they would love to stay there. So how do you make those other countries great so people want to stay?
Old Combat Vet, as far as that, the speculation whether he was something like that, we were just talking about Trudeau. Look up the stuff about Trudeau. I'll just tell you that much. After seeing some of the connections with some of the stuff about when his real dad, and his real dad's or his real mom, looking at all that, I had no idea that was even a theory. Go look at the theories on the Trudeau stuff. You'll see what I mean. It's where he comes from, who is, obviously his mom and dad. Just go look that up. It's kind of crazy when you look it up. And you look at the time frames and all of that. And they say, oh, no, it was months before, it was this, or it was after, it was before, whatever. It's still weird. Dex, thank you so much. And I'm glad we got our sound issues handled.
Absolutely. Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys. And, of course, remember, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out our latest Marfoogle news video. Again, we did one just last night. You can find that right here, and that will direct you to our other channel. Thank you very much. I love you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro.